from vacation. Everybody's back to school. I was talking to a client yesterday, and I had a pretty big realization that something significant is changing as far as what our recommendations are as far as prolapse is concerned. And that's the use of pessaries. And so pessaries are basically, if you visualize like a diaphragm type disc to insert to support organs in prolapse, or it can also give support to help with stress urinary incontinence, those sorts of things. And so I was trained in pessary fitting back in December, and to get a pessary working with me, we do a fitting. We work with a company that will, as long as we write the paperwork out, it will send it directly to the patient at reduced cost. And I realized that how and when I recommend pessaries has changed, because it used to be there were such barriers to getting fit for a pessary. So typically your gynecologists would fit them. So to get your gynecologist appointment would probably be a couple of months. Then you'd have that initial appointment, then they would come back for the fitting. So by this point, you've got 3-4 months that have already passed. So I'm not going to make that recommendation unless, I'm incredibly sure it's going to work, and I'm incredibly sure it's what they need. Plus the fees and the rates involved in pessary fittings and the devices themselves, the prices are higher because it's associated with the physician's services and that sort of thing. So I realized yesterday that it's actually something that we can use as an earlier option with clients who are trying to navigate everyday life with leakage and with prolapse. Because if it just takes a session to get fit, maybe a week to get the device, we can start using it relatively quickly. The cost is very, very low. I think it's like, less than $40. So in this particular scenario, we were looking at somebody who didn't have severe prolapse symptoms, but just an awareness. And there were other reasons for it, and those reasons were being kind of addressed, but that awareness was still there. Thinking about using a pessary as a way to give the brain kind of a reset and time without feeling that, like if there's a hypersensitivity there and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel this all the time, there's this awareness, just to get a break from that, does that buy the brain opportunity to kind of dampen its sensitization and not be so like hyper aware? And I realized I never would have made that recommendation even a year ago, because again, it was 4 months to get a pessary. So 4 months for an experiment to see if we can dampen things, totally not worth it. But a week or two and really, really low cost, like under $40 to try that makes a whole lot of sense. And so the fact that more and more PTs are being trained in pessary fitting, and hopefully more that the public realizes that, it's seen as more of an orthotic as opposed to, like, I remember people not wanting a pessary because they're like, oh, well, that means I failed PT and surgery is next or that sort of thing. I'm like, no, it's not like that at all. So just the fact that accessibility to different options can change kind of how we look at introducing different ways of kind of progressing back to activity. So in this particular case, be like, hey, if we want to try this, I would have you wear it doing the activities that normally you would have that awareness, and see if you don't feel it. And if it makes it better, great, let's try that for a while, and then let's try and taper off, which is a very different scenario from in the past. We would use it more as, hey, you're going to use this and you're going to use it for a really long time. Could we use this device as a dampening device, kind of, and then slowly taper off and only use it like in cases of emergency, or you're going to do a lot of activities that you're not ready for, things like that. So it's really cool to think accessibility And reducing barriers to care can really make a difference in how the care is, which, again, incredibly different from, you know, when I first was aware of my prolapse after my second, which was, she's now 9, I'm like, that wasn't even on the radar screen. So very, very cool, because we're doing different things now than we were 9 years ago. I'm a little jealous, I'm going to be honest. But also, again, one of the reasons I love working in this space is because we are constantly taking things that, you know, we have, but can we look at it in new ways? Can we give clients better access? Can we give them better options than we did a year ago, 2 years ago, 9 years ago? So if you have questions about pessaries, or it's something you've kind of thought about or Googled or things like that, hop in my DMs. I'm happy to chat about it. I think, you know, this is kind of spawned some ideas for me. I definitely want to be talking about it a little bit more, because I have more moms that are interested in becoming more active in the context of primarily prolapse, because it's funny, people don't really give a crap about leakage. They're like, it's totally fine. But prolapse is like this whole fear-inducing thing. So questions about prolapse or pessaries, hop in my DMs. If you're on break this week, enjoy it. I enjoyed my week without internet last week. It was freaking awesome. But we're back and hopefully solving some problems. Have a good one. If I can shut this off. Maybe not. We'll see. No, it doesn't want to do it. I can't shut it off. Thanks.